Alright guys, so part 2 today for our takeaway. As we are going to do, we're going to continue using our coat hanger to demonstrate some things. I did add an additional stick here to the ground. It's right off the golf ball, just kind of in line with my target line. So it's our target line extended basically. But we're going to use that as a reference here in just a second. So as we hop over to the mat, we're going to get back set up. We're going to get back to that same position that we talked about in video 1, where club's kind of parallel to the stick along my feet, and I'm going to make sure that this club face is fairly square, meaning it's kind of matching the angle of my spine right now. Now, from here, as we start to take the club back, the one key that I really like to see from players is I like to try and get the hanger or the end of my club, the butt end of my club here, to be pointing back at that ball line extended out. I see a lot of players in this position that are struggling, and they have the club more vertical at this point, mainly because of wrist position here. If I get a little closer to the camera, you can see that my wrist is in a cupped or extended position. Realistically, in that position, we want to be a little more flexed or starting to see some bowing in the wrist right there. That would be a really good indication of someone's club face being fairly square. I start to go in extension, you can kind of see how the club face starts to open. So kind of making sure that as we go from this parallel spot, and you can even see here, like when I'm in this second position here, P2, you can see my wrist is fairly flat. We're starting to get into that bowed position. That's what allows the club face to be square. That's really what's hinging the club. I see a lot of players as they start to take this club back, as they get here, they hinge the club that way and they put their wrist into an extended position already. So it sets them up with an open face and kind of creates a lot of issues from there. And if I actually do that in my takeaway, I start to extend my wrist as my hinge, you can see the club's setting very vertically at this point. Now, as I continue, I could manipulate it and kind of get it to work, but that's just adding additional pieces that I really don't need. So to kind of recap here, right, as I'm kind of working through this, we're going to start it from setup, get to our P2 here where we got a nice parallel line. Again, I'm starting to flex that lead wrist. And then from there, as I continue up, I continue to flex. There is some pronation and supination in the forearms, obviously, because again, I've got to make sure that that hanger's pointing towards the ball line. And from there, if I continue my rotation, I'm going to end up in a fairly decent spot to then set myself up to start delivering the club. So how the wrist is moving has a big part in this. Again, my cue for you guys as players, I think a good thought here is as the club is working away, you like your knuckles on your lead hand for the right-handed golfer, my left hand. All right, I want my knuckles to essentially be facing away from me or towards the camera or towards a wall, whatever you need to think of. If my knuckles start to look back at me, let me go closer here so you can see this. If my knuckles start to look back at me, that's extending my wrist, and that would be opening the club face. If I go back into my flexing, you can kind of see how the club face starts to square or close. If I overflex, now obviously I'm really shutting the face. So again, you can overdo this, right? Just like anything in your golf swing. But for most players, they definitely get into this extended position here, open in the face, and then from there, it's just an uphill battle. So as we start to work through this, that's one of the couple of pieces that I really like to see from you guys as players, is we start getting that flex in the wrist a little earlier, right, to set the wrist, and then from there it continues to flex. That allows that club to set, and from there I continue with that just rotation, and then we can start chipping shots out from there, okay? So hopefully this helps you guys. If you have any questions about it, let me know, and I will see you in the next video.